Let me begin by affirming my deep respect for the scholarly credentials, the gastronomic engagement, and the good taste of my esteemed colleagues in this symposium. What is more, I hold each of their disciplines in high regard, and who knows, at the end of the Havdalah, it might be possible for the weighty subject of this evening's deliberations to be lightened up by disciplines that treat it as a piece of business, a medical symptom, or a musical interlude, though Zer haya nes gadol. Be that as it may, in dealing with something so convex as this evening's problem, I wonder if we should not be wary of solutions formed as from a cookie cutter, the tonic appeals of medical reductionism, the wholesale bargains of economic reductionism, or the erotic appeals of aesthetic reductionism. Putting my own disciplinary cards on the dinner table, I suggest that we heed the prophetic teaching of the great Emil Durkheim, who held that the only sure method for resolving human conflicts is that of the sociologist. What's so funny about that? And that means to draw on the analytic potential of a more expansive foundational notion, that of society. Society? Boy, thereon begs a question. What is society? An ancient debate surrounds this question. It was addressed with unmatchable chutzpah by the aforementioned Durkheim, who ground out a concept that shall live forever in the collective underbelly of civilized men and women. Arguing against those bridge players who served up the tepid notion that society ain't nothing but a contract, Durkheim advanced the stunning counterclaim: society ain't nothing but a pancake. But oh, what a pancake! What an inexhaustible source of morale from its ever-renewable batter. What emanations of sacred sentiment. How piquantly it evokes the sour cream of moral fervor. So momentous, this concept of the social pancake, our author invented a scientific representation that would be capable of doing it justice. I refer, of course, to the Latke-Hamantash. For those of you unfamiliar with the general theory of the Latke-Hamantash, let me quickly present its three principles: roundness, cohesiveness, and just the rightness. The principle of roundness tells us that the basic condition of every Latke-Hamantash is every particle therein is surrounded by other particles. In other words, society is all around you. That's my students laughing. They know what Durkheim really said. The second principle, cohesiveness, tells us that all the bits and shreds of the social pancake are held together tightly. The main thing that holds them together is that basically they are all the same. The ingredients of the Latke-Hamantash may be different before they enter the social grater, but when they're ready to become true society, a real Latke-Hamantash, boy, do they look all alike. However, and here lies the real beauty of this theory, once the social process gets underway, once the Latke-Hamantash begins to cook, a notable differentiation takes place. Part of the gooey batter separates itself from the rest and turns into a crisp brown layer. This difference in form serves a difference in function. That crisp brown layer, radically different from the original Latke-Hamantash batter, now manages to provide even greater cohesiveness for the Latke-Hamantash. than it enjoyed when it consisted of totally homogeneous matter. In short, the Latke undergoes a very subtle and efficacious division of labor, which results not in dispersion, but in greater cohesion. Doing well tonight. But not every Latkeite is equally worthy. This is what we learned from the third principle, that of truth of rightness. This principle, in fact, gives us the basis for a typology of Latkeism. Supposing the batter is really mixed up. Part Irish potato, part sweet potato, for example, only poorly graded together, then, my friends, you have an anomic Latkei. And you better watch out if you're sick. Or perhaps the batter is cooked, not to a crisp, but burnt through and through. That is a fatalistic Latkei, and it's no good either. No, the edible Latkei of a good society has a well-integrated consistency, and its temperature is regulated, not too hot, not too low. In sum, the theory of the Latkei gives us a clear and distinct understanding of the basis of society and represents an immense intellectual advance. Nevertheless, having reached this point in our deliberations, we feel a certain visceral unease. Excuse me. Although Durkheim's concept of society remains deeply persuasive, one must acknowledge that it has been challenged by an alternate conception. The view that finds society not all around you, but between you and someone else. The view classically formulated by Durkheim's great contemporary, Georg Simmel. Thank you. The second conception of society possesses certain immediately apparent advantages. For one thing, you can understand it right away. It is easy to assimilate. For another, it is closer to reality. It does a better job of simulating the real processes of social life. And I ask you, isn't that where a lot of social life goes on, in direct encounters between I and thou, or even just thee and me?